Alrighty, I'll try and make this guide pretty quick. This is my toxic and render-based Bladestorm character, who I'm currently playing in offline mode after the server issues. I was planning to do this build guide on the live servers with my level 63 character, but the last few days it's been an issue, obviously. So I did kind of do some text file manipulation to get this character to level 86, so don't judge me too much, but I wanted to get this build guide out. It is a note worthy to mention that my gear is honestly not that good. So when I do the gameplay coming up shortly, don't judge the damage too much. I think for bosses we can easily hit 100k once we stack up our elements with our Bladestorm crit. However, with good gear I could easily see those numbers jumping to 200,000 to 300,000 on a crit. So keep that in mind as I go into some gameplay. So switch scene and we'll head into a champion map. Roll area modifiers, we won't worry about that. So let's head into the map. Okay. So while we're mapping, we'll spawn these little green orbs, one of them which I just ran over. That is a 30% damage gain as poison, which is very nice. You're just hitting for 140k on that target. Our damage while mapping is higher because we'll pick up those globes, which give you a buff that lasts between 5 and 10 seconds depending on whether you pick up a passive node on the tree. At the moment I don't have the node beside it, which increases that buff duration to 10 seconds. So my globes are giving me a 5-second buff for 30% increased damage gained as poison. It is also noteworthy to mention that you can stack that buff infinitely, so I could pick up 5 globes, 6 globes, and that will give me 30% damage gained as poison. But yeah, in terms of gameplay, I'd say this build is very fast from what I've seen, and the damage is also very solid. And I should mention actually that you can equip some daggers if you want to go a lot faster, because Bladestorm can snapshot movement speed buffs. So Dusk Shroud gives us some movement speed with a skill modifier that we have on it. Same with Sovereign Shout. This is our normal Cyclone speed. Oh, Cyclone. Mind blank, sorry. Bladestorm speed. If we press Sovereign Shout, followed by Dusk Shroud, and then Bladestorm, a lot quicker. So you can map faster with this. The damage is about, I'd say, half of what you can get with a two-hander, so keep that in mind. Okay. Keep going. But yeah, I'm trying to get through things as quickly as possible because I don't want the guide to be long. Which means I won't explain things in as much depth as you'd want. But in a future build, if I do min-max it, I'll definitely discuss everything in much more depth, especially if there is the demand to do so. So if this video does get some decent attention, I'll make a min-maxed version and I'll discuss things in detail for you guys. And yeah, feel free at any point to skip ahead a little bit when I'm fighting the boss, if you want to do so.
Finished yet.
But yeah, do keep in mind that it is in champion mode, so the mobs are level 70, which means that you can die to little like rares. They cast some nasty stuff at you.
Can't be done. I can't do that right now.
Almost done. I think he has, yeah, material shield. So this will take longer than usual. Okay. Let's head into gear real quick. Just get material damage wherever you can. Shoulders. This one has material damage. This one doesn't. For gloves, again, you can get material damage. Currently, I don't have any. Both my gloves. For belt, I'm just running this. I believe you can get crit damage on a belt, so look out for that. Pants, again, material damage. These ones don't have them. For the chest, you can grab material damage again. For our two-hander, anything that just has a high degree of toxic damage would be ideal. And then fizz damage is probably your next best option. So physical and flat toxic damage, your ideal go-to choice. For boots, you can get material damage again. Look for move speed as much as possible. For rings, crit damage, material damage. This ring actually isn't too bad. Pretty good. This ring's really bad. Just has crit hit damage on the implicit. So again, you can have, honestly you could have a steel ring with crit damage, implicit crit damage in one of the mods, then material damage on top of that. I'm missing a lot of damage in that regard. And then amulet, I just have rend and toxic damage. I think physical damage and toxic damage again would be your best option, because physical scales both the toxic and the rend, and we want as much toxic damage as possible. The rend damage is just there because it scales nicely with the material damage we get on the tree. I think I covered the helmet. If not, material damage again. So a passive tree. So we're just gonna path this way, grab the crit, head up down here. You can pick up these ailment nodes. Probably good to mention that the max ailment stacks is pretty good when I run into skill modifiers for Bladestorm. I'll explain that a little bit later. Then grab Grievous Afflictions for the increased ailment stack, where you can apply an additional ailment, mostly getting spammed on Steam. It's a good moment, this is why I apologize in advance for doing this live. Then your ailments can crit, pretty strong. Note here multiplies the ailment stacks, so we pick up these to give another 25% chance and another 25% chance for a total of 50% chance. So we have a 100% chance to multiply the number of ailments, which is pretty nice. Then you can head up here, pick up the Rage Gen on Kill, very strong. Probably at that point you want to head up here, grab this node here, convert Fizz to Toxic, then you can grab the crit damage, and head here, convert the rest of your Fizz to Rend, and path here to increase your material damage with scales, both the Rend and toxic damage. And then you can head up this way, grab the Child of Fury, which allows you to generate rage instead of willpower, pretty strong. This node's insane. Frenzy Blow increases your rage cost of Bladestorm. Bladestorm will actually snapshot the double damage. So you cast, I believe it becomes from a 120, let's say, initial cost, that will now be a 240. So you spin, it'll proc the 240 cost, you'll get the double damage, and then you'll just lose rage at I think 90 cost per second, which isn't doubled, so that's nice. So you just snapshot the double damage and you're good to go. This is probably our biggest damage boost in the build. And then at that point you can head here, grab that Poison Globe node that we talked about before, then head here and grab Toxic Emanations. So you just, nearby enemies are inflicted with a poison stack, and they're slowed by 20% for 2 seconds as well. Then you can pick up Persistence Hunting, 25% increased damage to enemies that with impaired movement. So obviously if you slow enemies by 20%, you get the 25% damage boost. Then lastly, so that should be like level, I think 60, between 60 and 65, you can get most of all of that done. And then these last points here, this cluster here, it gives just block, so it's just nice defensive. And then this one up here just gives Tenet, which is just some nice damage reduction. That's passive tree. And then, so that was a level 75 tree, by the way, and I'm level 86. So the last points I just didn't want to spend because it's probably going to take a while for people to get to 75. And then we'll head into our skill modifiers. I'll probably just go over Bladestorm super quick, and then I'll just hover over the rest of the icons and the other skills. The Bladestorm ailment chance can be held as a prolonged skill. That's how we can channel it. Increased AoE I just like for mapping. Instead you could maybe take increased crit strike chance if you killed an enemy, and then reduce rage cost if you don't want to run the AoE. And then we have increased damage per each ailment. So because we can stack up, I think 20 poison stacks and 20 bleed stacks, together that's 40 stacks. increased damage for each ailment the enemy has. I'm not sure if it's doing, if it's adding the stacks on top to give you damage boost, or if it's just one stack of poison, one stack of bleed. So I think it might be one stack of poison and then one stack of bleed. So you just get 2 ailments on the target, which boost the damage of Bladestorm by, I actually don't. I don't know. It doesn't tell me, but it's a pretty nice node. You saw the damage increase when we're on a single target. It's quite noticeable, so I think it's a decent amount. Then we have increased crit damage, pretty important. And then lastly, increased tick rate upon inflicting a critical hit. Just makes it so you're hitting fast, or yeah, it's like, well, the Bladestorm is going tick, 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 tick instead of tick, 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 so it's a bit faster and more damage, more DPS. So for Juggernaut, I just wanted the defensive skill. Nothing else really looked that insane. You could probably replace this with something else if you really want to. I just have this, this, head down here, grab this, grab reduce cooldown, this one, then reduce rage cost. Go ahead into Dust Shroud if you want to use daggers at any point. I don't know what else to put here right now. Again, I'll finalize the build if need be in future. So Dust Shroud if you're using daggers just to clear fast. In around this, go down here, grab that. Movement speed, which is the most important part if you're doing the dagger memes. Then reduce rage cost, reduce cooldown, and you can break crowd control effects. And Sovereign Shout, pretty good ability. Resistance, duration, crit chance, increased effectiveness of all buffs, very, very nice. The move speed, which is the main reason I like it. Crit hit chance score, very good. Increased rage gen on hit, and some global leech. Then lastly, I am using this one, Wings of Shmir. Rage gen, increased flight speed, grants buff for each enemy hit. Ailment chance score. Skill loses cooldown, but costs 1 stamina point. So instead of your roll, you can use this instead. And then increases damage dealt by yourself and allies. The last node. So I believe I've run through pretty much everything except for our character sheet. I'd say just put everything into Ferocity, nice and easy. Yeah, should be fun. Okay, so in conclusion, the build is fantastic and excels both in clear speed and damage. I hope you found the video useful, and my Twitch stream info will be in the description below. So drop by anytime if you have questions or just want somewhere to hang out. So thanks for watching.